I had a lot of friends who were starting festivals of their own, musicians and touring artists, and it occurred to me that it would be nice to have a festival, but not just for the sake of having a festival or making more money, because it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to do it for a few years and do it right before you can expect to break even, and because you want to get good artists in and you want to give people an affordable ticket price, and really for me, I was more interested in having an experience than I was in any kind of like financial investment. And when I thought about it from the perspective of what would make for the best experience, I thought, well, I want to do it in my hometown. Because growing up in the Shoals area, there were a lot of great studios and a lot of great studio musicians and a lot of great live musicians who didn't have a whole lot of options for where to play. And also, we didn't have a lot of opportunity to see touring acts that were from out of town, national or international touring acts coming through the town and playing. We would have to go to Birmingham or to Nashville, sometimes over to Huntsville if we got lucky, and see people play at Starwood or at the VBC or somewhere like that. And to me, I thought, man, it would be a really wonderful thing if we could put together a real festival, with real sound and real lights and real production and big time touring acts, and do it in the Shoals where people could come see it in their backyard.
That first festival really, I think, kind of showed people who you are as a person and how much you care about the community when you were giving back to your high school and you had all that involvement. To be able to give back to the school and the band and to recognize them, that's very important for young musicians and aspiring musicians. Kind of walk me through that thought of giving back to the schools.
There were a lot of us in the marching band and in the music program at Rogers who went on to be professional musicians, and it wasn't a big school. We didn't have a whole lot of resources. We were out in the middle of the country, and I think there were 54 people in my graduating class. It was a small school. But the number of people who've gone on to make music for a living and for the rest of their lives is really, really high, and I think the reason for that is because there were people teaching at Rogers and people involved with the community of music in Green Hill who took it very seriously and were very generous with their time and with their resources. And so, I love to know that young folks, people who are teenagers or even kids, have something to do that's healthy and formative and gives them a way to express their emotions. It does all the beautiful things that music does, and so yeah, when we get an opportunity to give whatever it is, money or time or a platform to people who are trying to improve the lives of these students, then yeah, we're going to take that opportunity, because it is, it's about more than just serving yourself, I think, and for me, I'm not personally satisfied if I just came back down to my hometown and played a couple shows and got a check and went back to Nashville. That wouldn't be enough for me. I need to feel like that I've left something behind that's at least a little bit better than it was when we got there.
You think about the Shoals, obviously we know how special it is. We know the rich history that's here. The documentary came out, really starting to revitalize all the talent, all the history that's here too. But for you, how special is the Shoals? For people who don't know, because there are people that move to Alabama every day and we say, hey, Muscle Shoals, Florence, and they look at you clueless.
Right.
What do you tell people about the Shoals area, about Florence and Muscle Shoals?
Well, I think, there's a magic here from a musical perspective. There's a magic here that didn't happen anywhere else. And I think part of the way the musicians and the bands and the producers and the session players were integrated at a time when that was not the case everywhere, I think that led to a really good chemistry and a really good example of our best, I spend most of my time in Nashville, but I tour and I've recorded in all kinds of places in LA and New York and all over the world, and I would put the best music from Muscle Shoals up against the best music from anywhere else on earth, from LA or New York or Chicago or anywhere. I think that it's hard to define what caused that to happen. It probably comes down to a few individuals who really cared about the work that they were doing and about the music that they were making. But I think it is inarguable that the best examples of Muscle Shoals music are as good as, if not better than, the best examples of music from anywhere else on earth. And once you tell people what songs were recorded here, then they think, oh, that's serious then. That wasn't just a music town. That was a music town that had real historical significance. And, those recordings still hold up. I mean, there's still, the Aretha and Etta James and Wilson Pickett. I mean, nobody's beaten that. Popular music has not gotten better than that. As many songs as we've recorded and released and as many albums as humanity has made, we've never gotten any better than the work that was done here in those days.
Thinking about growing up in Green Hill, your time with the truckers and everything, did you ever envision you being where you are now?
I was always encouraged as a musician. I had a lot of people who were very supportive of what I was doing. So I always expected to make music for the rest of my life. I always knew that would be my job. I never wanted to be an astronaut or a firefighter or any of those. I just wanted to play guitar, and that's eventually also write and sing songs. But no, the details of it were definitely have turned out to be more than I ever could have possibly imagined. I'm very proud of the fact that we can bring an actual music festival to the Shoals area. Like, that's something, the first year that we did ShoalsFest, that was my favorite thing that I did all year. It felt so good to have my family and my friends and people that I've never met who flew in from out of town to come to this place and this location because they trusted us to put on a really good show. And we did. We pulled it off, and we did it again the second year. And I am certain that we'll do it again this year. But no, that I never could have expected that would have happened, just because I didn't ever know that I would have the ability to put together a group of people who could pull it off that well.
To think before ShoalsFest, the biggest thing to happen in McFarland Park is the 4th of July.
Yeah, the Spirit of Freedom celebration. I played a lot of Spirit of Freedom celebrations. I did, yeah. When I was a teenager, yeah, we were always one of the afternoon bands, a bunch of young kids playing mostly cover songs up there. So to come back and be at the same spot with my own festival is a really beautiful thing. I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, you should come to our festival in October. And she said, where is it? And I said, do you remember where we drank all those Zimas in 1995? It's that exact spot where we went and hid and drank Zimas. So yeah, this place has a real significance for me, throughout my whole life, I have spent time on the river right in this very spot where we're having the festival, so that's a big deal.
When you think about taking the stage for ShoalsFest, do you just are you nervous? Do you have a sense of calmness? Kind of what goes through your mind? At this point
in my life, I'm probably the most calm on stage. Because I know what's about to happen. I've done it so many times that I know nobody can get to me. Somebody will stop them before they get up there and ask me to do something else, And it's kind of like I'm on the clock, but I kind of feel like I'm off the clock because it's like I know for this couple of hours, the world is going to let me do my job. So I'm very comfortable in that situation. But there are heightened emotions, and I have to watch because some of these songs have very specific references to people and events that have happened to me growing up in this area. So I have to watch not get too emotional when I'm performing at the festival. That's a real risk. I have to sometimes think, don't think about that. Don't think about what this song is about. Just sing it, because I don't want to start crying in the middle of the set. That would be a terrible show. The headliner just, hold on, y'all, and started bawling for a minute. Yeah, you can do the crying. You and Mom do the crying.
A few years ago, talking with the family, speaking of kind of that connection and how everything worked out with Dress Blues. With your songs, having the reference and the significance and stuff, even though maybe some direct.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be a real treat. Not every musician is able to reconnect kind of the way you have been able to reconnect with your hometown and the people you grew up with. I mean, that's an art form in itself. It's really something special that you don't get from everyone.
Right. Well, and it is, I think, part of the fact that, you know, I talk about these places and these things that happened to me here in North Alabama when I was growing up. You know, some of that is owed to the type of music that I make, because there are a lot of folk influences, and, you know, in folk songs you talk about places, very specific places. And also, you know, a lot of this stuff just sings really well. A lot of the names of these towns and these people, in my accent, you can rhyme it with just about anything, you know. So I'm fortunate, but also, you know, I think one of the general themes of my music is that concept of place and where you come from, and how that informs the changes that you go through the course of your life. That's just the kind of music that I always really liked listening to, so that's what I chose to make when it was my turn to make songs. But it is extremely special. Sometimes it hits super close, you know, and not everybody's always happy about, you know, a song that you write about them or about their home or their family. But you know, if you spend a lot of time and take care with it, you can do it in a way that's honest, but still moving in a positive way. You know, hey, I'm not just out here writing songs about, you know, Jimmy bullied me in the 5th grade. Look at this asshole. You know, you can't put asshole on TV probably.
Yeah, on the extended stuff.
Yeah. This is an outtake. You know, it goes back to the Tom T. Hall method. He had a book on songwriting where he talked about it's okay to be angry, but don't be bitter. You know, because when you're bitter, then you weaken your perspective as a storyteller. And you know, there's some beautiful things that I saw growing up here, and there's some sad things that I saw growing up here. And as long as I keep my perspective strong, I can tell those stories in a way that is more of a historical record than a reaction, emotional reaction.
COVID, the first year of ShoalsFest in New York, I mean, everything gets turned upside down. What has it been like performing again in this kind of post-COVID era?
Oh yeah. It's after, you know, the lockdown period where we were able to go back out and play shows. I started noticing that like your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night crowds felt like your Friday or Saturday night crowds. So that was really nice. People were so grateful to have live shows and have that return to some sense of community where they could gather. So that's been really nice. And you know, I love playing live with my band so much, and I missed it so badly. Like I missed playing with the band more than I missed hearing the audience cheer. You know, that part I didn't think about that much, but actually being up there with people who are like family to me, all working on a common goal of making the show as good as possible, that's something that I really missed really bad. And I think the audiences did too. And I think, you know, they can tell that we're up there having a lot of fun now, so they're having a lot of fun too. But yeah, people were like really having a good time on a Tuesday night. I was like, this is rare. Don't y'all have to go to work tomorrow? Like, oh, maybe they're all working from home. They can sleep in a little longer, you know.
Do you think this has maybe reinvigorated, re-energized the music industry, having something almost taken away in a sense?
You know, I don't know if the industry benefited from, you know, the time when we couldn't tour and couldn't play and couldn't do a whole lot of recording, but I think the creative part of the music world benefited from that, you know, because it's something that we all, the ones of us who are still here, you know, we survived it, we lived through it, and I think it rearranged a lot of people's priorities. I think that was a big thing. It did that for me. It really, you know, by the end of the lockdown, I knew what was most important to me. And I think as a creative person, that's a really good thing that can happen to you, especially after you've been making records and touring for 20 years or so. It's like all of a sudden I have this different list of, this is what I really, really care about. This is what I need to be happy and to be sane. And so you go out and you start making music again, and you have sort of a different purpose, or a reinvigorated need for expressing yourself, I think. There's wasn't anybody to talk to. My wife got tired of hearing my stories after about 3 weeks, and there we were for another year and a half, So now it's like, oh, there are people that want to hear what I have to say again. I better make it count.